guys, in this video, we're gonna be talking about 3 different things that you can implement today that will help you become a top 1% player by year end in 2023. The first thing that we have to do before we even start the video is belief. It's very important to understand what belief is and why it will help you. If you don't believe that you can even become a top 1% player, you might as well click off this video. This video is just not for you. You need to believe that it is even a possibility. Now, understand, this is not even a harsh, like, sort of subsection. Top 1% of the population is not even that small. It's not genuinely like pro players only in the top 1%. There's a lot of people up there. Right? It's a big section. And can you get there? Absolutely. I do believe you can get to that point. Now, it just depends on whether you believe. Because if you don't believe, your actions will not have real effort behind them, because there's no point. Like, subconsciously, you just think that there's no possibility, so why would even you try? You know, maybe you're practicing, but like, you need to understand that it is possible, and yes, you can get to that level. Top 1% is not hard. We can do it, right? Now, talking about this video, what are the 3 things? Meta shift, things change all the time in Fortnite, and what we must understand is we need to focus on things outside of Fortnite that are universal, things that you can apply to every season despite the meta, you know, regardless of the meta. These 3 things in this video will help you improve rapidly if applied correctly and if applied consciously, right? We need to make sure that we're applying it, because if you watch this video, you notice the 3 things and then go on to do your Fortnite routine the normal way that you do it, it's not going to work. So what are the 3 things? These 3 lessons are very, very simple. Number 1, you need to stop trying to win everything. What I mean by that, you should win, but you should not be directly focused on the win. This is a very small difference. Like, you shouldn't focus on the win. You should do a small detour and focus on your inputs into the game, and make sure your goals are centered around your inputs and what you can control directly, and making sure that you do that section properly will help you get the win. It's super easy, right? Because the thing is, like, if your confidence depends on the win, then when you mess up a little bit or things get a little bit unlucky, which can totally happen in Fortnite, especially in like other games like poker, it happens just as much. And it's why are there still champions in poker, right? They have a different mentality. If you focus on your inputs, which is something that you can control, then if you get unlucky and then die, even though you did your inputs correctly, you will not actually feel discouraged.
One of the biggest mistakes athletes make going into big games and coaches make is they take the wrong goals into the game. What are the wrong goals? Winning, that's the wrong goal. You know why that's the wrong goal? That's a byproduct of doing everything right. You don't have to worry about winning. The problem is, if you're focusing your kids on winning, you're going to set them up to fail, because you're focusing them on something that's going to get them uptight, and it's going to distract them, and they're going to get kind of preoccupied with that. The biggest mistake a kid could make, and you as a coach as well, is to take your goals or expectations onto the field with you when it counts. Okay? Because if you walk on the field with expectations, you're creating this internal sense of urgency. I have to, I've got to, I need to, oh my God, what if I don't? And then what happens is it creates a certain headset. Can you imagine what it's like for an Olympic athlete to go into the Olympics and think to themselves, I have sweated and busted my ass and bled for 4 years for this moment, so I better not mess it up. What's that going to do to you? I mean, you know, it's intuitively you know that, but it's actually a mental mistake to take the outcome and what's important into a game. It's a mental mistake.
So a lot of people actually ask me, they're like, why am I so nervous? How do I fix nervousness, Psychoma? Like, this is a big problem of mine. Every time I get into an important tournament, I always feel so nervous. It's like, you have such a very strict goal set for you. You're like, I need to win this game. You're like, game 1, 20 kill win. You heard that all the time. And then it's like, that is not good stress. You don't want to be stressed to the point where you're anxious. That is not peak performance. That will decrease your chances of performing well. You actually want to be in the middle, because being up here is too stressed, too anxious. Then being down here is like, you care too little. You don't even actually care about the game. And I've seen both, right? I've seen both extremities, and these students never do well, ever. You need to be in the middle where, like, you do care about the result. You are pushing yourself, but you're not so stressed to the point where your performance is actually deteriorating as a result of it. So that's important. And the way you can do that is by focusing on what you can control, and then making sure that leads to the win as a byproduct, or a second place, or a third place. Like, no one's crying because they got second or third with a decent amount of kills. Like, that is fine, but you need to make sure you're playing fine. Focus on your execution. No one does that enough. No one focuses on their input into the game, and everyone focuses on, like, What do I want from the game? Like, where's the win? I need the win. I need the 20 kills. Because some games, honestly, guys, like, based on loot, based on some external factors, maybe getting keyed and then griefed, and because they're like sitting on high griefing you and then they run away. If your expectation is still 20 kill win in that game, it becomes weird, right? And sometimes, because you're focused on your input, you can get more kills. Like, it's not good to have very rigid expectations of each game and rather just focus on your execution. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, and this is more of like a long-term lesson across the season when you're practicing, make sure that when practice is going well and you're hyped, like you're energetic, you're doing well, things are going well, you're almost like in that flow state area, that you continue practicing that day, right? Don't stop early. There should not be a situation where you're practicing the same amount each day. I think that's not ideal. We don't work like that. We are not robots. We don't do, situations where we just do like 6 hours rigid over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Some days will be less, 3 hours, and some days will be more. And the way you decide that is by making sure you understand how you feel, right? So for example, if you have a day that you're like hitting every shot, you're doing amazing, you're doing really, 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 really good, you should continue. You should continue playing. Why not? Like, reps have quality associated with them, and if your quality of reps are really good, you're improving if you do them. Vice versa, if your quality of reps are bad, you should stop. There is such a thing as repping bad reps. Like, you are actually deteriorating. You're doing bad things. Like, for example, you don't feel like you're playing textbook in fights or whatever. Like, you feel like you're letting some of the bad habits come back in a creative fight. For example, very simple example. Why would you rep out the bad habits? It doesn't make sense. Like, if you want to get better at peaking and you've noticed like, okay, I'm not doing that well, like as much as I'm mentally trying to like make sure I'm peaking everything, I keep doing the bad reps. Well, in this case, you should get off. You should actually take a break. Maybe you can take a 30-minute break, come back and see how it feels again, but you should definitely not continue while you're playing bad. This is why I tell people to be professional about what they do and not treat this as a video game, even though it is a video game. Video games are played for fun, and if you're playing for fun, even if you're playing a little bit bad, you'll still play because it's like, hey, I just came home from school or work and like I deserve the break, I deserve to play, I deserve to, have some fun. The issue with that is that you're going to do bad reps, and that's not good. We don't want that. And there's another example where an Olympic shooter, a professional Olympic shooter, has used this exact tactic. Like, even if you don't believe me, at least believe him. He used this exact strategy to make sure that his improvement and his practice is going good, right? So here's the story. Here's a clip explaining that. Okay.
So Lanny Basham was an Olympic gold medalist shooter.
Okay.
And when he made the Olympic team, he's old now. He wrote a book called With Winning in Mind.
Yeah.
It's like mental stuff for sports performance, right? Because shooting is very precise.
Yes.
So he said when he first got to the Olympic team, he wanted to be just like this guy was a gold medalist. So they went to the range. It was a practice day, and he just said, "What are you going to do today?" And he said, "I'm going to shoot this many strings standing, this many strings kneeling, finish off with this many like offhand, and then I'm going to go to lunch and then whatever." So like he's like, "Cool, I'm going to do exactly what this guy does." So like he goes and like shoots the standing, kneeling, whatever offhand. And he's like getting ready to go to lunch, and he goes by the guy, and the guy's still shooting stand. And he's like, "Hey man, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? I thought you were gonna do this." And he said, "Well, I went out and I shot my first string of standing." And he said, "I shot a 97, which is like my highest score. And I shot it again, and I shot a 97, and then I shot it again, and I shot a 98, and then I shot it again, and I shot a 98." And he's like, "When you're on, you keep doing it. Whatever I was doing then, I want to reinforce it."
Yes.
Right? I want to get as many reps because I'm doing it perfect right now.
Yep.
So that's the point. He said, conversely, if you go out and you're like, hey, let's say you normally shoot a 90 and you're there and you're like, you shoot a 86 and then an 80 and whatever. He's like, there's a point of like, you have to, push through depending on what level you are. So like for me, I have to push through some stuff, right?
Yes.
But for somebody who's a pro, like they would look and go, the fucking third or fourth time that they shot an 80, they'd be like, hey, I'm not working on aim anymore. I'll go free build.
Yeah,
right? You see what I'm saying? Like they leave it, right? Because they don't want to reinforce a bunch of bad reps. Something's off.
Literally hurting
or
yourself.
Go home.
Yeah,
or go home. Yep, yeah. So it's a professional example from a shooter of exactly that. But if you're doing it perfect, like keep doing it.
Like you don't want to rep out bad reps. Like if you have a bad day, just stop. Obviously,
just
like
stop.
There's an element of guilt for more amateur players who like feel like they have a lot to work on. And obviously, if anything that you're doing a rep is like higher standard than your current, then you should do it. If it's higher standard than current, then it's going to be improvement for sure.
But amateurs and novice have to wade through that, though. They have to wade through just doing it over and over because they're not there yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think volume is the biggest thing for that level. And number 3 is about genetics and then the hard work argument. And I know that a lot of people don't consciously talk about it. It's not really a discussion that people actively bring up. But in terms of what you hear when people make excuses or when people talk about the game, it is actually that in a nutshell. So to give you an example, some of the comments that I hear, it's like, is it even worth to continue? Should I even be trying? Was it even worth it in the first place to continue to try? And all of these comments are actually really worth answering. Is it worth it to try? Absolutely, it is worth it to try. And as many of you guys may know, I was a player first. I actually competed before becoming a coach and a YouTuber. And I actually competed for 3 years. And I can confidently say that competing in Fortnite was not only the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, but also the most empowering thing that I've ever done in my life. It has changed the way that I think about everything. It has changed my confidence levels. It has changed the way that I just look at life. Because then after doing that Fortnite thing and seeing how far I could even get, you know, while maintaining my work, while maintaining my school, while maintaining all the other things in my life, and seeing that like, hey, the second half of my day goes towards Fortnite, how much can I do? And seeing I'm like genuinely surprised how far I got. Like genuinely, I was like pretty surprised. And I think it will also surprise a lot of you, and that surprise is going to be the element to unlock your true potential for everything else in life, right? And so like, even if you don't make it, it's like everyone thinks like, oh, I became a tier 2 pro and then I quit. Was it worth it? Yes. Personal anecdote, I can tell you it was worth it. I can tell you that it was genuinely worth it. And I think everyone should strive to do something very, very difficult. It's why people encourage everyone to go into, you know, sports in school and actually have competition. And the benefit of esports and the benefit of competing online in Fortnite is that you don't just compete within your school and schools in your area. You are competing against North America. You are competing against the entire continent. And that is really, really, really good, because when you do make it, that is the proof that you could do something difficult. It's the genuine proof that, you know, when you put your mind to something, you can make it happen. And that sort of proof and the fact that you can say that statement in your head and believe it for everything else that follows in life, even if you quit right before you become a pro, totally worth it. And to take it even further, I have a clip here from Bill Beswick, a very, very, very famous sports psychologist who has worked with teams like England and soccer and a bunch of rugby teams. I think this is really, really empowering, so I want you guys to hear this as well.
Is that the case that it takes a special type of person, or can everybody step into high achievement and pushing it to different, like pushing the boundaries of different places?
There's a great phrase: genetics deals the cards, environment plays the hand. Facing the challenge, achieving for yourself, and putting your fears and anxieties to one side. So I would never give up on somebody. Never. And even if you don't achieve at the highest level, you may not have the same genetic disposition as somebody else. But there's an awful lot of players playing in the Premier League football in this country who are B for talent, not quite as genetically superior, but A for attitude. And attitude is something anybody can have. Anybody. Talent is something that may be a little bit God-given, but attitude is anybody's. You can decide to improve your attitude any day. You're in control. You're in control of your mind. It's your mind. So you decide what you think.
Now that you guys have heard all 3 things, I have to give a reminder that what's most important is that after you watch this video, you like literally do this. Like don't just click off the video after watching this and then like, oh, that was cool, like that made me feel good, like okay, cool, like let's go back to what I was doing normally. Like no, let's make a change, guys. Let's actually change the way that we think about things. Write these 3 things down, and then next season or whenever, or even now as you're practicing, apply them, right? Because theory or knowledge or whatever, like all the things that you learn, is useless if you don't apply it. And what's most important is like it only presents itself in competition and practice, and it only provides the value once you actually apply it. So like you could do the first half correct, learning it, which you're doing by watching this video and maybe even like thinking about it. But if you don't apply it, it never shows, right? And it's like you did half the work, but you get 0% of the reward. It's like not good. We don't want that. So make sure you get the second step and you actually apply it, and then you're gonna get all the benefit from this stuff. Because I know for a fact there will be a good percentage of you guys who just watch this video like clean through and then just boop and forget and move on with your day. And that's not what I want you guys to do. Don't keep doing that, especially if you watch regularly on my channel. Apply. You need to apply everything that you learn. Otherwise, there's like almost no point in watching. You get very, very, very little return. The other thing is there is a mouse link down below. This is a mouse company that I created, and I made sure that this is quality. It's literally the mouse that I use. And if you guys want to, check that out, it's oneclickmouse.com down in the comments below. But thank you guys again so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be banging out some videos in the next coming weeks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.